Welcome to Relation Tales. Please like this video and subscribe Relation Tales. We're grateful for each and every one of you. Let us know where in the world you're tuning in from. We'd love to hear from you in the comments. Let's begin. Ethan McAllister didn't plan to come home early that night. It was supposed to be a quiet Wednesday, a flight delay, a dull conference, and a takeout dinner eaten alone in a sterile hotel room 3 states away. But somewhere between the hollow hotel silence and the ache in his chest, he changed his mind. He needed warmth, not Wi-Fi. He needed her, his wife of 14 years, Madison. Their suburban Nashville home was asleep when his car rolled into the driveway. Porch lights off. Her car tucked neatly in the garage. It was after midnight, and he tiptoed inside, dropping his suitcase by the door without the usual routine of shaking off his travel clothes or unloading his laptop. He just wanted to see her, smell her hair, hold her. But as he reached the bottom step, he froze. Laughter, muffled, intimate, not coming from the TV, from upstairs. He climbed, slow and silent, heart thudding with every creak of the stairs. And then, the bedroom door closed, whispering behind it, a low voice, not hers. He stood there for what felt like forever. Then the doorknob turned. Madison stepped out, wearing nothing but a silk robe he hadn't seen before, face flushed, breath hitched, the scent of a man trailing after her. They locked eyes. Her smile faded. The man inside, some smug gym trainer named Carter, called out, "Babe, you coming back?" Ethan didn't say a word. He turned around, walked out. The door clicked behind him, and so did his heart. Ethan didn't sleep that night. He drove aimlessly, windows down, letting the cool southern wind whip through his thoughts. He passed diners still buzzing with midnight chatter, past flickering gas station lights, and finally parked at a 24-hour laundromat just to have somewhere to sit. Somewhere no one would ask him, "Are you okay?" Because he wasn't. He stared at the fluorescent lights buzzing above him, remembering every little lie. Every time she said she was meeting a friend, every weekend self-care retreat, every time she came home late with a smile that didn't match her eyes. The betrayal wasn't just the act. It was the timeline. The months. Maybe years. The way she still kissed his cheek every morning like everything was normal. He returned home at dawn. She wasn't there. She didn't come home until noon, sunglasses on, hair wet like she'd just showered off someone else's scent. She looked surprised to find him in the kitchen. "You're home," she said, casual. "I saw you," he replied, voice even. Her face turned to stone. She didn't deny it, didn't beg, didn't cry. Instead, she crossed her arms. "You were never really here anyway, Ethan." And just like that, she put the blame on him. He felt his throat close. That was the real wound. Not just the cheating, but how easily she discarded him. Like a broken chair, like something she outgrew. Over the next 2 weeks, she moved through the house like she still owned it. Like her betrayal didn't stain the floors. She laughed loudly on the phone, whispered in corners. She didn't even try to hide Carter anymore. Ethan overheard a call where she said, "He's still here, but not for long." And that was the last straw. Ethan didn't argue, didn't yell. Instead, he began to erase himself. Silently, systematically. He moved funds into a separate account, backed up every financial document, found a lawyer discreetly, met with him in coffee shops far across town. When the divorce papers were drafted, he didn't serve them. Yet. Instead, he bought a small cabin 2 hours away. No internet, no neighbors, just woods, mountains, and air that didn't carry the scent of betrayal. Then, one Saturday, when Madison went on a weekend trip to Palm Springs with Carter, Ethan packed every bag he owned, cleared out his half of the closet, took his dog, his tools, and every photograph of their daughter, Summer. He left her a note. "You said I was never here, so now I'm really gone. Don't look for me. You won't find me." When Madison returned, the house felt colder. She ran through it, searching, calling him, but he didn't answer. His phone was deactivated, his email wiped, his friends were silent. His job? He resigned. No forwarding address. She laughed it off at first, telling her girlfriends, "He's just being dramatic. He'll crawl back." But weeks turned into months, and one day, she opened a letter from the county clerk. Divorce finalized. Assets split. Custody settled. Her jaw dropped, and then she realized she hadn't just lost him. She'd been erased. Meanwhile, Ethan stood barefoot on the porch of his mountain cabin, watching the clouds roll in over the horizon with a quiet he hadn't felt in years. He was rebuilding, but not just his life. Something darker was brewing in his heart. A revenge he didn't even realize he was capable of. Because while she had laughed, he had learned. And he was no longer the man who begged to be seen. He would make sure Madison remembered the name Ethan McAllister, not as the man she cheated on, but as the man who vanished and came back as someone she could never touch again. Madison's confidence began to wither 2 months after Ethan vanished. At first, she flaunted her freedom. Dinners with Carter, cocktails with friends, posting carefully curated selfies that screamed liberated woman, while she tossed around phrases like self-love and healing journey. Her friends cheered her on, called Ethan controlling, distant, too quiet, too boring. Carter was her upgrade, a man who brought her roses and excitement. But excitement has a short shelf life. Carter didn't like routines. He liked attention, liked being worshipped. He wasn't there for Madison when her daughter Summer started crying during sleepovers, asking, "Why won't Daddy answer my birthday card?" Carter rolled his eyes at tantrums and scrolled through his phone during dinner. He made comments about Madison gaining a few relationship pounds. He texted other women, carelessly, openly. When Madison confronted him one night, Carter didn't even pretend to apologize. "You want a passion, right? Not some quiet guy with a mortgage and a grill." And just like that, Carter left. Left her with mascara streaks on her cheeks, a half-drunk glass of red wine on her granite counter, and the realization that she'd traded loyalty for lust. A man who would have bled for her, for someone who couldn't even sit through a kid's school play. Worse still, her friends began to disappear too. Their pity waned. Their lives moved on. They stopped inviting her to gatherings where husbands might feel awkward. But Ethan was a ghost. No one had seen him. Not a trace. Until one afternoon, she received a certified letter. Inside was a financial settlement summary. Nothing shocking, until the final page. Ethan McAllister, founder and CEO, Amberwood Contracting Group. Wait, CEO? He had been a project manager when she left. She read it twice, heart hammering. Then opened her browser. There it was, a sleek black and white website, embossed in modern font. Amberwood, specializing in high-end luxury mountain cabins and off-grid living solutions. A whole gallery of stunning builds, forest homes, and modern architecture fused with nature. And Ethan, her Ethan, was on the About page. Clean-shaven, muscular now, wearing a tailored vest, holding a coffee beside a sunlit cabin, smiling. He looked dangerous, elegant, rebuilt. She nearly dropped her phone. Panic set in. She called his old number. Disconnected. She called mutual friends. They shrugged. He kept himself now. She drove to his former office. Gone. She tried social media. Nothing. He had erased every digital fingerprint, except this one breadcrumb, just enough for her to see who he had become, and to know she could never reach him again. But she wasn't the only one watching that website. Across the state, real estate investors were paying attention. Orders were flooding in. His company was gaining traction, quietly becoming one of the top boutique builders in Tennessee's luxury hideaway market. And Ethan? He didn't flinch. He spent his days deep in woodwork, on construction sites, designing blueprints. His arms grew strong from lifting, his back straightened, and his mind focused. He laughed with his team, mentored younger carpenters, taught his daughter how to swing a hammer, and showed her how to read a compass. He was a man reborn. Yet even amid this growth, one thing simmered beneath the surface: the betrayal. The image of Madison in another man's arms wasn't something he revisited. It revisited him. During storms, during the silence after his daughter fell asleep. He had never wanted revenge in the loud, cruel way. But then one day, life handed him the perfect opportunity. A client reached out, an old college friend of Madison's. She wanted a house built for her and her husband. Off-grid, private, high budget. She didn't recognize Ethan's name at first. But when they met for coffee, she blinked in shock. "Ethan McAllister? Wow, you look different." He smiled calmly. That woman, she was connected, still close to Madison, and she talked a lot. By the end of their coffee, he knew everything he needed to know. And by the time her project was halfway done, Ethan had quietly arranged something far more personal. Something not even Madison would see coming. Not yet, but soon. It arrived in a white envelope. No return address. Just her name in soft gold cursive across the front. Madison hesitated as she tore it open. Inside was a thick invitation card with embossed lettering, elegant and understated. You are cordially invited to the Amberwood Autumn Gala, celebrating community, craftsmanship, and new beginnings. There was a location, an exclusive mountainside venue. Guest list, private, by invitation only. Madison frowned. Why was she invited? She hadn't heard Ethan's name in months, only whispers. But this was a message. She applied her makeup with trembling hands that evening, choosing the same burgundy dress she once wore for Ethan on his birthday years ago. She told herself it wasn't desperation, it was closure. When she arrived at the Amberwood Lodge, the air was sharp with pine and firewood. The structure itself was breathtaking, modern yet warm, timber beams towering overhead, fairy lights strung across open balconies. Inside, laughter echoed across glass and stone. Wealthy investors, elegant women, men in black suits, and in the center of it all, Ethan, not just present, commanding. He stood beside a woman, tall, graceful, brunette, wearing a cream gown that flowed like poured silk. Her name was Willow, his new partner. Ethan's hand rested gently on her lower back as they laughed with a small circle of guests. Madison froze. She hadn't prepared for this. She thought maybe, just maybe, he'd still be alone, that a sliver of him might have been waiting. But he had moved on, fully. And then he turned. Their eyes met. She couldn't read him. His face didn't flicker. No anger. No softness. Just stillness. The kind that makes your chest cave in. He didn't walk over. Didn't wave. He simply excused himself from his group, stepped into another conversation, and disappeared into the hum of elegant chatter. She stood alone, invisible in a room filled with Ethan's success. Later that night, as the event wound down, Madison wandered outside, needing air. She stepped onto a stone path lit by lanterns, leading toward a balcony. And there, he waited. Ethan stood at the railing, arms folded, staring at the moonlight on the lake. She approached slowly. "You invited me," she said softly. He didn't turn. "No. The guest list was public. You weren't supposed to receive one. Someone else must have added your name." That hit like a whip. She swallowed. I didn't expect all this. You built something incredible." He finally looked at her, eyes unreadable. "Yes, I did." She looked down. "I miss summer. And you." Ethan's gaze stayed locked on her. "You don't miss me. You miss who I used to be. The quiet man who never made you feel small, even when you treated him like he didn't exist." Madison blinked. He stepped closer. "You cheated because you were bored. You wanted chaos. Passion. Well, this is what I built from that chaos." She opened her mouth. "I was lost." "You didn't find yourself, Madison," he said, voice sharp now. "You left yourself. And me. And your daughter." Silence stretched between them. Then he added, colder, "Don't mistake this gala for a second chance." Her lip trembled. "Do you hate me?" "No," he said. "Hate would require energy I stopped giving you a long time ago." She tried to reach out. "Can I at least see summer?" He stepped back. "Not yet. Maybe one day. When she stops asking why you left and starts understanding that people sometimes choose their own ruin." Madison's hand fell limp at her side. His words had pierced her, but they weren't cruel. They were true. He walked past her, back into the lodge, his shoulders square, his purpose intact. And she remained by the railing, still, broken, and surrounded by the success of the man she had once believed would never become anything without her. The irony? He had become everything because of her. Because of the fire she lit when she burned his world down. And she would carry that truth like an invisible brand for the rest of her life. The next morning, Madison didn't leave the mountains right away. She sat in her car long after sunrise, watching the dew lift off the grass outside the Amberwood Lodge. Her reflection in the windshield didn't look like the woman who had once laughed at her husband's quiet routines. She looked older, not just in years, but in regret. She had tried everything in her own twisted way. New lovers, new clothes, affirmations, social media quotes. But none of it gave her the peace Ethan now carried in his silence. She used to mock stillness. Now, she longed for it. But it was too late. Ethan wasn't trying to hurt her anymore. He had moved beyond the need to hurt her. That was the true revenge. Not the wealth, not the success, not the new love. It was his freedom, his complete emotional detachment from her. Weeks passed. Months. Madison returned to her suburban home that now felt like an abandoned stage set. She stopped scrolling through old photos, stopped imagining the sound of her daughter's laughter echoing down the hallway. She began, slowly, to rebuild herself, not to win him back, but because she no longer recognized the woman in the mirror. She took a job at a small florist downtown. No one knew her name. She liked it that way. She got her own apartment, modest, neat, full of books and blank journals. And eventually, she reached out again, not with begging, not with guilt, but with sincerity. A short message. Ethan, I know I can never undo what I did, but Summer deserves a mother who shows up. If you ever believe I'm worthy of that again, I'll be here. Ethan didn't reply. Not right away. Instead, he watched his daughter one night, curled up with a book on the couch beside Willow, who braided her hair with steady hands. The cabin glowed with the golden hush of evening, filled with soft voices and the scent of cinnamon tea. And for the first time, Ethan asked himself, what does justice look like for a child? Not revenge, not punishment, but truth. He didn't want Summer to grow up with blanks in her story. So, one morning, he sat down across from her at the kitchen table. Do you want to see your mom? He asked gently. Summer blinked, unsure. I'm not saying she deserves it, he continued, but I think you deserve the choice. Summer nodded slowly. The meeting was arranged for a weekend. Neutral ground. No expectations. When Madison saw her daughter again after nearly 2 years, she didn't cry. She didn't throw herself forward or ask for forgiveness. She simply dropped to one knee and whispered, You look taller. Summer nodded. I read now. A lot. Madison smiled, wobbly. I'm proud of you. They sat in a nearby cafe for hours, talking, laughing awkwardly, building the smallest of bridges. Ethan sat nearby, watching from a distance, not controlling, but present. Summer looked back at him often, and every time, he nodded, reminding her, You're safe. I've got you. In the months that followed, Madison didn't push. She stayed consistent. She sent letters. She learned how to listen. And Ethan, though guarded, allowed more visits, each under clear boundaries. They never became a family again. But there was space for Madison to become a better version of herself. Not the wife who betrayed, but the mother trying to atone. And Ethan, he finally allowed himself to fall. Willow had waited, patient, kind, never asking for more than he could give. One spring morning, as sunlight filtered through the pine trees, Ethan placed a small wooden ring box in her hand. No grand speeches, just a quiet promise. I never thought I'd feel whole again, but you made healing feel like breathing. Willow smiled, eyes shining. Then let's keep breathing together. They married in the meadow near the cabin, barefoot and surrounded by wildflowers. Summer stood beside them. Madison watched from the back, invited not as a guest, but as someone finally learning what grace looked like. It didn't come in the form of ruined reputations or courtroom drama. It came in the quiet rebuilding of a life so powerful, so peaceful, so undeniably whole, that the one who broke it could never find her way back inside. And that was the kind of revenge no one forgets. Not even Madison. Because the man she once left behind, he didn't just move on. He transformed. Forever.